So one of the things we have to do when we're working with these rational exponents is we have to be careful with the negative signs. So a negative exponent, that doesn't mean the same thing as a negative base, okay? So when we have a negative exponent, the rule is, and we're going to go over these later, but I'll just put it up here now. If you have a to the negative n, that is equal to 1 over a to the nth. And we usually don't want our final answer to have negative exponents. So I see that negative exponent on example 4 here, and so I'm going to rewrite it to be 1 over, and it's going to be negative 64 to the 1/2. Now those parentheses are important, so we'll see that later on. And so that's just taking care of this little negative sign right there that's on the exponent. So the exponent was negative 1/2, now it's a positive 1/2. Okay, that's how you take care of the negative on an exponent. Now we're going to think about, well, what does that 1/2 mean? It means 1 over the square root of negative 64. Well, that's going to be a little problem because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So we're going to say this is not real. Or they might say not a real number, something like that. Okay, so turns out that one was not real. And the fact that you know what the square root of 64 is, doesn't matter. You're trying to take the square root of a negative number, and that's not real. Okay, let's look at the next one. So this time we have a positive exponent. So we can just convert that to the radical notation. But here's where you have to be careful. Notice there are no parentheses around the negative 64. So that negative sign in front is not part of the base. It's like an opposite sign. So it's going to be the opposite of the square root of 64. So let me go over that again. The negative sign is not being raised to the 1/2. Just the 64 is. It's like if they had written it this way, but they didn't put the parentheses in, and they don't have to, but that's what it means. So if they want the negative with the 64, like on the last problem, so remember we had a base here that was negative 64, they have to put the parentheses in. Okay. All right. Now this one on B here, I can take the square root of 64, that's fine. So I'm going to get a negative 8. That's going to be the answer there. All right, we've got one more. This time there's a negative exponent, so we're going to do what we did on the first problem. We're going to rewrite this as 1 over 64 to the 1/2. But now we're not going to think about 64 to the 1/2. We're going to think about it as the square root of 64. But notice now the 64 is in the denominator. It doesn't make my expression negative. My expression's still positive. It's a negative exponent, and negative exponents are all about location. You're either in the numerator or you're in the denominator. So this one has a negative exponent, so we move 64 to the denominator and make it 64 to the positive 1/2. All right. Then we changed our 1/2 into the radical notation. So then it was not 64 to the 1/2, but the square root of 64. All right, we're almost done. So that's going to be 1 over 8. So it takes a little while to get used to this with the negative signs. And I've got another video that's going to go over this again at some point. But study this and practice. There's some homework problems that'll help you with that.